the internship for the Hudson Guild Zoom podcast. We learned how to produce 3 different formats of Zoom podcasting. We learned the traditional question and answer method when interviewing Shannon McMillan in Video Highlight 1. We learned the free-form interviewing method when interviewing activist Raquel Almazan in Video Highlight 2. And we learned how to incorporate multimedia video into our Zoom podcast when interviewing Chavez Sanchez, junior animator with his own production company, starting right out of high school, and an advocate for registering 18-year-olds to vote in Video Highlight 3.
Welcome to Hudson Guild Podcast on Zoom.
We at HGPC are a youth advocacy group,
part of the Teen Services Department,
that interviews leaders making an impact
in their communities and beyond, that inspire and educate youth.
Shannon McMillan is from Louisville, Kentucky. Shannon attended UNC Charlotte, where she double majored in criminal justice and psychology. After college, Shannon was selected to join the Knicks City Dancers as a member, co-captain, and team coordinator. Shannon is now a psychotherapist with her own private practice, Triple Crown Counseling.
You majored in psychology and you minored in criminal justice. That's actually a major that I want to get into when I go into college. So I just have a few questions on that.
Absolutely.
One, what made you want to get into psychology in the first place?
Great question. So I actually double majored. I got a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. It was actually a pretty common double major. My original intention was to go to law school and do criminal defense work because I also wanted to prevent the pipeline to prison, the school to prison pipeline. I wanted to kind of stop recidivism and, deter individuals that were going in from going in repeatedly. So I studied criminal justice because there's no such thing as a pre-law major in undergrad. And I studied psychology because I wanted to understand better why my clients were doing what they were doing and how best to redirect them so that they wouldn't do it again. So that's actually why I studied psychology. It's just a coincidence that it ended up flipping the other way around later. Well, it's not really a coincidence, but that's why I picked those two initially.
Okay, and how would you explain the not the workload, but like the experience of double majoring with these in college? Like, was it a lot? Did you enjoy it?
I think the toughest part was that I was on the dance team and every spring was nationals. And so trying to work 2 jobs, go to school, and be on the dance team, like that's what was actually difficult more than anything else.
Mental health is so ignored in the Black community, so we need more of us out there to understand us. So do you think it was hard to find a job after you graduated college with this degree?
But as soon as I went back and got my master's and I had a plan at that point, no, I've never been without a job, and now I work for myself.
Hi, my name is Jasanti. So I recently read that you've been dancing since you was 3 years old, and I'm a person, I love dance, and I've been dancing since I was younger too.
Okay.
So my question is, when you dance, how did it make you feel, and what was it like to compete in regional and state competitions?
I've always competed. I've always loved competing. So I always found teams that competed. If the team didn't compete, I tended to kind of look elsewhere. But I've honestly, growing up, I think competing was one of the things that was significant in like building confidence and teaching perseverance and learning how to take critiques and criticism and feedback and then turn that into, like using that to improve and not getting upset about it. I became a Knicks City dancer. I was working as a district coordinator for Kmart. I was doing some other things, but I was constantly looking for my way into the legal system. So some of the dancers for the Knicks were they worked for Merrill Lynch on the banking side. And they're like, you're great at organizing this. I was the team coordinator the last 2 years on the team. So I organized all of our costumes, the schedules, blah, blah, blah. And they helped get me into Merrill Lynch.
Thank you. I love that answer.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
Yeah, I gotta ask, how did you balance working at a studio, having your own team, and school?
I am a spreadsheet queen. I would create a spreadsheet. I would code all my different activities and colors. And like on a weekend, I would sit down. I'm like, okay, I need to be at work on these days. I've got to do homework, whatever. And then in the white spaces that were left over, I'm like, okay, I'm going to work on this paper and this white space here and finish it by then. I'm going to work on this project with this group because that's the only day they can meet, and this white space right here. It would be kind of that detailed. And so I'd have it mapped out for the week. Keep in mind, when you go to school, you can go to a student center and you can go to like the counseling center at your school. They will always kind of help you map out and execute, what you need to do for school.
Some people get frustrated, even sometimes, like with me, when I'm doing like a couple of things at a time, I tend to try to give up on certain things because it's like I don't find it's important as I need to find it important, but you stuck with it and you did it.
I understand where you're coming from. It can feel like a lot, and I have a tendency to probably take on too many things at a time. My mom is always warning me, like, you are going to burn yourself out. And I did not know what she meant until one day, I did kind of burn out. Like, if you are doing too much and your brain and your body is trying to manage all these different things. And I just kind of wore down and I just couldn't keep up with things.
Like, I know it can be mentally draining, like helping people with their own mental health and ailments. So I wanted to know, like, what was it like talking to these people and working with them?
I was a therapist and I went into the schools and I worked with students in the schools. They had way more students with personal issues than the school counselors could handle, right? And so there are nonprofits pretty much everywhere that handle that. That was also a very different feeling. It's different than a clinical setting, which is different than a private setting.
Since you have so many career paths, which one was your favorite? Like, you were a dancer, you did all this stuff, but which one is your favorite? Is it the one you have now being a therapist?
It's all of them. It's every single one of them. There's not a single one of them that I would have given up. Number one, they all contributed to who I am. They all contributed to a different, they fulfilled a different part of me. Like, nobody's any one thing, we all have multiple interests. We just don't always get to pursue all of them. Mm-hmm. Those are great questions, guys.
Thank you.
You're beyond welcome. Thank you. Thank you guys for having me, for asking such great questions, for reading the bio and, just basing your questions off of that. That was really good. Really good. Oh, well, you guys, this was awesome. I'm gonna have to tune in the next time you guys have one.
Hi everyone, my name is Raquel Almazan. I use the pronouns they, she, and her. I'm a theater artist, media artist, an educator, and an activist. The last 20 years of my life, I've been working in lots of different kinds of communities. As you said, what you were passionate about. I've been working with incarcerated communities for 20 years, so I'm really passionate about reforming prisons in the United States and prisons around the world. How can we reframe this idea of punishment and actually bring healing and equality to our society? And immigration. I'm my family and myself, I'm an immigrant to the United States. So I'm also very passionate about working with immigrants, and all of the issues of people of color. I'm a person of color who was primarily raised in the United States. Yeah. So my role as an activist was not like, oh, I'm going to wake up one day and I want to be an activist. I had to become an activist in order to protect myself and my mother and my brothers and sisters. So I didn't realize at the time that I was living in domestic violence, because the violence had become normalized. Each of the participants, just maybe tell me your name and something that an issue that you're passionate about.
Yeah, my name is Christopher, and initially passionate about is police reform, because I've personally had experience with dealing with it. So I really want to see it, change soon.
My name's Lariah, and I'm very passionate about social justice.
My name is Rihanna, and a subject I'm really passionate about is equality. So how important is it to you that you break these norms that society has of us?
Yeah, no, thank you for asking that question. Because what I saw was that the women around me were stuck in a role. That's what I saw. And I saw that unless I separated myself from that, that it was almost like when you're stuck in a loop and you see something happening over and over and over again. And I saw it because that somehow my mother never said women are not allowed to do this or not. What I felt was that every time I would attempt to take power, then there was physical, violent repercussions to my actions, right? Not only in my home, but outside my home. Like, how many times have you been in a room and you've seen someone abuse someone else, whether it was verbal, emotional, or physical, and you didn't do anything? I think we've all been there.
Yeah, especially in the community that I live in, people just tend to look the other way because they don't want to be snitches or get involved into that situation.
And in my neighborhood, from what I experience, is that a lot of times if you step in, you will get hurt. So it's not something you want to take a chance in.
Yeah,
Like you might get shot that day, and you don't want that to happen.
It's very much, especially like in the communities that I see, and even in my family, it's like you said, the cycles of complacency and I'm just gonna stay in this role and be happy with what I have when they can be doing so much more. And it's just like, it's kind of sad to see them not belittle themselves, but put themselves in these places, especially like my grandmother. She had no choice but to survive, but it's not those times anymore.
It's hard when you're the person in your family that can see what others cannot. But here, I would love to come back because I have to go to another class, but I can definitely come back. Yeah. And if you would have me.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, come back.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, dear.
Hi, I'm Chavez, and I'm an animator and business owner. Was a friend of mine, Jonathan, he founded a youth voter group called 18. And essentially it's just about getting young people into civics and understanding that these things are important and that voting affects your life. And really trying to bridge that gap because, young people have a lot of power. And I hope that we learned that this year with everything that's transpired. He wanted to do an animation and that would encapsulate kind of this idea of, really using your voice and making change. And also how, even though it's called We're All 18, the idea is that everybody should vote. Not just young people, like it's targeted at young people, but it's the idea that like we can all make that difference, we can all change, because there's plenty of people that are older in life that maybe have never voted. And so that animation, we just wanted to kind of show in time how different revolutions have happened. So this clip that I had was the thing that I did for the voter campaign. And we just wanted to show throughout time different protests and movements that went on, and that voting is a way that we can make change, today.
So like on average, how long does like these type of videos take to make?
So it depends which one. Like this right here that you're looking at, like, depending on the shot, like this shot right here that's playing took us an entire morning to do. Like probably like 5 hours, like that clip that just played. So it depends on the type of animation that it is. On our 2D animation reel, we were working on a job over the summer with the Classical Theater of Harlem, and we spent like 4 months working on this piece for them, and the animation was a minute long, and it was a team of people. Yeah.
Oh,
Just 1 minute. Yeah. And it was a team of people. It wasn't just me. Thank you.
it's no problem. Jesus.
Did you have to track it?
I had to track certain parts of it. Tracking is like here's an easy example. On Snapchat, if you have like a sticker or text and you like hold on it, how it'll like stay on whatever it is that you hold it on, that's tracking. Except it's like way better in After Effects, the program that I use. And I was it was about that time for colleges and stuff like that. I applied to a few schools. A lot of the work on my on my website was in my portfolio at the time, and I'll be honest of what happened. I applied to SVA, I applied to Pratt, and a couple other non-art schools. SVA rejected me, which was a huge surprise to my teachers who went to SVA, both of them, because I applied not with, like they give you the specifications of what you have to have in your portfolio. I had all of that, and I had animation on top, which is not normal for kids to have animation on top of their work. Like for somebody to be animating at 18, most of the work that was on my website, I still had at that point. So they rejected me, and that was a big surprise. But I was fine with that because I didn't want to go there. I wanted to go to Pratt. I got into Pratt. They gave me a scholarship for, I think it was $25,000, and I'm looking at the tuition, and the tuition is like $45,000. It says something like that. So I thought I was gonna have to pay about the difference of that, like $20,000. I wasn't good at math, but I thought I was gonna have to pay about like $20,000, $25,000, and so I was gonna go. And it was actually a hard decision because like I can't afford $25,000 a year. $25,000 a year is like still more than 4 years of like state school. Like it's like still at that point. So I had decided to go, and I went to talk to the head of the digital arts department. I don't know these people. I just said, hey, I would like to talk to the head of the digital arts department. And what I wanted, and what I said to myself is, look, I will do this if this man can convince me that this is worth going into debt for. Because the one thing you guys should know is that the job is not guaranteed. The debt is guaranteed. I told him, look, I can't afford this school. I'm really on the fence here about if I should take this loan out. And, I have big ambitions. I'm an A and B student. I want to do better. Like I'm sure everybody here wants to do good. I want to better myself. Is this worth it? Like, can you convince me? And couldn't convince me. So I went back downstairs and I asked to drop out basically, and I dropped out before I even started. Like in my situation, I at that point dropping out in the out of Pratt at that time, I tried to go to BMCC and all the classes were filled. So it was like there's nothing I could have done at that point. But I think that you're just know that you have worth and that you can be something. I think that's the most important thing that I want to say. Got an actual LLC for my company, so I'm a registered like business owner. Like I have a card have a bank account under the business name. I have an IN, like all that stuff. It's all official. Yeah, I worked there for 2 years. COVID hit, so we've just been doing stuff remote. But yeah, I because of the skills that I gained at art and design, I was able to have a fighting chance. You know, like I already learned a decent amount. I just have to keep practicing that stuff that I learned there. And I was already making product. So I think I'm personable. I think I have good people skills, and a lot of it, you know, when you're selling things to people, you have to, a lot of the companies I work with were local companies. I mentioned the Classical Theater of Harlem. I worked with G3 Sports Apparel which is also in Midtown, G3 by Carl Banks.
Okay, so my first question is, how did you get started before having an animated company?
I had like 2 or 3 freelance gigs, big freelance gigs that I did in high school. And then also in high school, I got to learn a lot about like just leadership in general, with different teams and clubs that I was a part of.
Being that your family was like a little bit disappointed in you when you decided that you didn't want to like go to college due to like the debt or whatever, would you say like the moral support now has like gotten better since you made that decision, or like they're still kind of like upset about this decision?
So it was LeBron James, and she watched the interview, and LeBron James was talking about how there's like I think he said that he was weighing out like the pros and the cons, and like I can't remember, but it was something like the pros and the cons essentially of it, and he was weighing out that decision. He decided to go straight into the NBA. And my mom had watched that video, and she had called me up, and she was like, you know, I listened to what he was saying, and I was thinking a lot about this, and you know, I just want to say, like, I think you made the right decision. You didn't make a rash decision. You thought it out. You actually talked to somebody there, and you know, that meant a lot to me. I didn't expect that. It was like a out of the blue thing, and she had just called me up and was just like, you know, she had her own epiphany. But yeah, I was pretty it was pretty rough, because obviously you don't want to be a disappointment, and you want, you know, to have that support. But yeah, it was she called me up, and she said that kind of opened her up. It's your life, you know. Everybody's gonna have expectations of like what they want out of you, but as long as like you're doing good for yourself, and I think trying to better yourself, and that also could be going to college at the same time, then yeah.
Great. It's been great. I really appreciate you coming on. We all do.
Yes.
We learn something new.
Yes.
We look at new things and experiment new things, and expand our horizons in all sorts of new fields that we haven't done prior to this. So it's been awesome, and I really appreciate that.